So yeah, what did you think of Vanguard overall?
Uh, of the card games I played,
Mm-hmm.
especially with this deck, it was fairly easy to pick up.
Mm-hmm. And
Uh,
did you feel that like the additions that they made to be a little more like new player friendly, did those help you out at all?
I will say the most helpful thing was not only it was a pretty simplistic deck,
Mm-hmm.
which was nice, but honestly, just having the cheat sheet down here on what things are, so I
Yeah.
can look them up. Uh, Other than that, even with the helpful, the trainer cards, I still needed to ask, especially like what does boost mean? What is
Mm-hmm.
uh, I can't
Yeah.
even find the card anymore. The guard, the intercept.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
So
that is one problem with them is like, yes, it is nice that you have them, but you know, that's why we ask the new players what they think is because like, yeah, you mentioned that you didn't really draw into them, so if you
yeah,
needed to know what those did, they weren't really accessible to you.
right. So I mean, having the trainer cards, and now that I know what they do, it pretty much tells you exactly what it's supposed to do.
Mm-hmm.
Just in implementation or playing it during the game, it
Mm-hmm.
definitely wasn't. It didn't feel as intuitive, just because
Mm-hmm.
honestly it was all new, language at this
Mm-hmm.
point, new terms that I didn't really have a good baseline on.
Mm-hmm.
But especially after the second game, it was definitely pretty comfortable.
Okay. And then one last question because this came up when we were talking about the main sets. So these grade 3s that we have in these trial decks are downgraded versions of the same cards that are going to be in the main booster set. So, for
Oh,
example, your Leonorn, if you were to buy D Booster Set 6, which is the upcoming one, then you're going to get a different version of Leonorn that has a more powerful ability. So, the basic thing where it like boosts with your entire back row, that is the same.
mm-hmm.
However, you'll notice it has two abilities. One of them is just like if it is a booster, it gains an additional 5,000 power.
Yeah.
So, the main set version of that does not have that. Instead, it has an ability to like counterblast one, and you can draw a card and either call something from your hand or discard a card.
Okay. So they
So,
just kind of made it a little more simplistic on the
yeah. So
trainer.
I'm wondering, like, as a new player, how do you feel about like not having the quote unquote real version of the card? Because this is kind of a downgraded simplified version. Do you feel like you would prefer to have that in the trial deck, or are you okay with that being in the main set and having to like pull for it or pay extra to buy singles?
It's kind of I think it's a two-edged blade at
Mm-hmm.
that point. It's nice because from a learning standpoint, it does kind of simplify the
Mm-hmm. Like
game a
less
little bit. It's just
information.
one less thing to have to try to keep track of.
Mm-hmm.
On the other hand, if you were to plan on really getting into this, as a first deck, it would kind of be unfortunate if you had to, you got the trainer deck and immediately had to turn around and try to either pull it in a gotcha pack or pay more to
Mm-hmm.
actually get a playable, uh,
Yeah.
not so much a playable. It's playable, but
Yeah,
a
but
more competitive deck.
in this case it's like an objective upgrade, right?
Yeah, yeah. So learning standpoint, it's nice that it's more simple.
Mm-hmm.
From a competitive standpoint, it's unfortunate that it you do have to go out and get the upgrade.
Alrighty. Thank you for that. I just kind of wanted to get a new player perspective because, when we were talking about it on our podcasts, one of the things that came up is that this is supposed to be a new player product. And so
Mm-hmm.
maybe as a veteran player, we don't have someone like me wouldn't necessarily have the perspective on it because, I wasn't particularly into that decision. I thought that, like, it kind of sucks that these trainer decks are a little bit throwaway. Actually, I think the expansion cards were pretty well designed. Some of the cards in here are actually like pretty powerful and will last into the main set once it comes out. Like the grade 3 you played,
Mm-hmm.
Clapping Dragon, at least for
Yeah, that
initial
was
builds of the deck, I was using that. For Drajul, this guy that can look at like your top 3 and put something into Soul, that's pretty important for being able to consistently maintain 4 different grades. So I like that these expansion packs kind of help boost the deck out of the gate. So if you did want to get into the game more competitively, you could make some selective upgrades. It's a little unfortunate that they didn't give you full playsets of these cards because, you know, I would definitely want to be playing 4 of this. You probably want to be playing 4 Clapping Dragon at the moment.
Yeah, but then again, if you are learning and you have another friend who's also in the same position trying to get into it, and you both have starting decks, and you know, it's definitely enough to get the hang of it, get into it. It's just if you're going to go up playing someone who has been following for a long time,
6 years.
You'll definitely have some shortcomings if they're playing their own deck, as opposed to like you were playing with another beginning deck. So it didn't feel like I was at any.
It didn't feel particularly one-sided.
Yeah, exactly. I didn't feel at any specific disadvantage just due to decks.
Yeah. See.
So.
Which is a really good thing that this came on time, because otherwise I would have had to actually play one of my constructed decks to make this video.
Oh, yeah. But no, it was definitely fun. I enjoyed it.
All right, that is good. I'm glad that you had a good time with this.
Yeah, you said there was a Steam game coming out of it soon, right?
Yes, so on November 17th, Cardfight Vanguard Deer Days is a Steam version of the game, so it's not quite like Master Duel. It is going to be more of like a story game that has a multiplayer element, so on release, it's only going to have the first 5 sets, which doesn't actually cover this trial deck or any of the related support, funny enough. But yeah, that will be coming out November 17. Not an ad.
I mean, this has definitely done a good enough job of introducing me to the point where I would definitely consider looking into it.
Yeah, you know, if you had the time and energy to play an actual paper card game, like, would this product have gotten you into it if you had just, like, picked it up off the street and I didn't, like, dump it on you?
Honestly, yeah. Most of the issues I do have with card games is just having no digital way of playing it, or very few. It's gotten better recently, especially with the new Yu-Gi-Oh game that come out.
Yeah,
Magic has their own game at this point, but a couple of years back, when I was starting to really get into it, your options were not great except going out to play with at a physical location, which I was not the biggest fan of.
Yeah, I would be perfectly fine going to locals if there was one in any kind of convenient place near me.
Yeah, so I mean, I would definitely, if I were into going to physical meetups to play, this would definitely be something I would look into. I'd usually just stick to the digital side of things. But it's definitely done enough to get me at least interested in the Steam version of the game.
That is good. Always good to have new players. Well, thank you for helping me out with this project, Chris.
Yeah, no problem.
All right, and then I'll just, like, edit in all our patron shoutouts later. I don't feel like doing that right now.